Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I've got an update for you guys on this pretty big severe weather outbreak that we've got occurring in the north central U.S. right now. It's going to be continuing through the next few hours and into tomorrow. But this is going to be a very, very intense storm. That we also do have, obviously, newly formed tropical storm Cindy. Now, Cindy is expected to strengthen a lot throughout the next couple of hours. It slowed down though with its strengthening as of right now, but once we get into tonight and then obviously tomorrow, we will start seeing a lot of rapid intensification. But also, Bret has actually made it past the Lesser Antilles Islands, and it's been losing a lot of strength lately. Not too bad actually with the damage reports out there, but there were some pretty gusty winds out there, and it was pretty dangerous out there. But it's entered the Caribbean Sea, so it should be losing a lot of its strength and its size due to that wind shear out there. But the main topic of this video will probably be on our severe weather outbreak occurring in the central and northern plains. You can see you've got two storms that have been firing across the two regions. The first one down here in central Oklahoma is like the Norman area. That's where it's approaching. And then this one up here in North Dakota and Minnesota. But this is all going to form this very big and massive storm that could even become a Derico. But we've got to obviously continue looking at the models and seeing what this will bring. But we definitely have a lot of things going on right now, and then we still have that rainstorm that's been pushing a lot of moisture into the northeast and the southeast, still bringing some of those downpours and those gusty thunderstorms. But there's a lot to talk about today, so we'll get into the video starting with your alerts. So as you can see, that basically what we've got going on is you got your tornado watch that goes out for a few, I think, two counties in southeastern Montana and almost half of Wyoming, a few counties in western Nebraska, exactly western because you don't really see any parts of central Nebraska included in this tornado watch. And then you also do have I believe that's actually it. No counties in North Dakota, no counties in Colorado. But this could get updated once we get into the evening hours of tonight. We could actually see this tornado warning stretch into a few counties into western South Dakota and a few counties in northeastern Colorado. But that definitely could eventually just not happen. But we do have an excessive heat warning for a lot of Texas, the panhandle of Texas, into parts of New Mexico. Now, New Mexico, you guys are sizzling out there. You not only have some counties included in the excessive heat warning, but you also do have a looks like you do have a red flag warning. So that shows you that you definitely you have to be ready for that wildfire spread and those wildfire potentials. But excessive heat watches for parts of southeastern Arizona. Now this is not uncommon. This is not uncommon because we usually do see a very hot climate in this region, and this is very deserty region. There's not too many people in the way of this, but make sure that if you're living out here, you got to stay aware that fire spread is very, very active today, and especially those temperatures could definitely get dangerous. But almost the entire state of Texas, you guys are under a heat advisory or a excessive heat warning, so it's going to be very hot out there. Same deal for you guys in Oklahoma, but also look here in central Oklahoma, you do have a severe thunderstorm watch. Now this is due to those storms that we saw on the radar moving southeast towards the Norman, Oklahoma area. But the rest of the country, you got Florida. Some of you guys in northern Florida, Tallahassee area, you guys are under a flood watch. And then a few, I believe this is the air quality alert. It might be a dense fog advisory, but I think this is a air quality alert that's out for I think all of Wisconsin. Yeah, all of Wisconsin. A lot of Minnesota, mainly the eastern half. So the closer you are to the Great Lakes, the the worse the air quality will be. And then also a lot of Indiana, you guys too have unhealthy air quality. But the rest of the country should be pretty much okay. So we can move on to our NAM 3K model, and we're just going to be talking about basically, what are going to be the impacts on this major severe weather outbreak that we've got today. We've got an enhanced risk that's pretty big. I know I think Reed Timber's actually out there chasing these storms. But to start things off, this was about 3 p.m. today. You did have some very intense storms just around the North Dakota and South Dakota borderline. But you can see that these have been very, very intense. Showing up as some reds and some purples on here. Now these also have been producing a lot of wind. As you can see, you've got a very, very strong squall line that will start approaching. Minnesota, Iowa, and then also parts of Nebraska. But I mean, this is gonna probably hit in the middle of the night tonight. So when you're sleeping, make sure that you are ready for whatever's gonna happen tonight, because this is I feel like you guys in the Dakotas, you guys are gonna get hit very hard. I do think though that South Dakota is gonna get hit a lot more harder than North Dakota, but still, all of you guys in the North Central are gonna get hit by at least one pretty nasty storm out there. But this cluster of storms is definitely going to be the group that's going to produce the severe weather that we're talking about today. So I'm going to circle this area just to show you guys. And then this area, it's just going to be moving due east. Maybe it'll take a slight southeast turn. So maybe it'll be aiming more of the Chicago area, so like the northern Illinois area, and then parts of Indiana, and then eventually Ohio. But we continue watching the storminess throughout the rest of tomorrow, and this does continue on with that squall line. So it's still producing those damaging wind gusts, but it's falling apart a little bit. So maybe early morning hours of tomorrow is when you'll start seeing a little bit of that severe weather dying down. But then it forms its own low pressure system, and there we go. You got a lot more broader and widespread severe weather event happening right here. But I can tell that because you have your northern edge of the storm impacting the northern states like northern Minnesota and North Dakota, and then this is the severe couplet right here in looks like Iowa, and then also parts of southern and central Minnesota. But this is going to continue pushing east, and then this does, again, your second squall line in 2 days. It forms a squall line, and that's how you can tell that this is really going to be dangerous for you folks out there. But it looks like Illinois, Iowa, South Dakota, and then Minnesota are going to be the big ones, and then maybe even parts of Nebraska could get hit. But I think you guys, those states I named, if you are living in any of those states, you got to be alert and aware of what's going to be happening today and tomorrow. But this is going to be a very long-term storm. You're getting into your Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, and you're still seeing that storminess unfold across the Ohio Valley now. You have another squall line, so it's your third squall line of the event. But this is, a very, very long-term event. We don't usually see, 3, 4, and 5 day events with this intense severe weather. But you could definitely see some really, really crazy and scary stuff unfold across the Ohio Valley, especially towards northern Kentucky. I think if any of you are in northern Kentucky, West Virginia, that kind of area, you've got to really be alert for some of those damaging wind gusts and maybe even some tornadoes. So like a tornado or two could definitely be possible out there. But the storm finally ends. It's still not even done. You still have a pretty nice 996 millibar low pressure system kind of cruising out here, located right in the middle of Michigan. So I really think, for this entire area, it's very weird. It seems to be that the northern half of the state usually is looking like the state that's going to be the part of the state that's going to get the more severe weather. I'm just noticing that based on the NAM 3KM model. But, obviously you should definitely make sure that even if you're in the southern part of the state, you've got to, keep taking this seriously, and you can't really guess on any, things of this severe weather event. But we go to the SPC. You have two areas of slight risk. One in which has an enhanced risk, but the population isn't too bad, as this is under not too heavily populated areas, only just above 497,000 people. But you've got a lot of northwestern Nebraska. So today it looks like Nebraska, South Dakota, and a bit of eastern Wyoming. You guys are on the show, on the stage for tonight for severe weather. Then you have a slight risk for the surrounding areas. of that enhanced risk. And then if you go just a few hundred miles south of that, you go into the just north, like northern Texas and parts of northeastern Texas. You guys in the Panhandle of Oklahoma, you guys are under a slight risk for severe weather today. But that enhanced risk, you got Rapid City, South Dakota, North Platte, uh, uh, Nebraska, and then you also do have, or I think that's Nebraska, yeah. But Gillette, Wisconsin, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Scottsbluff, Nebraska, and then Pierre, South Dakota. So, there's a few major cities in there, especially Rapid City, South Dakota. You guys are going to probably see the most of the severe weather, around the most of the severe weather today, just because you're close to the middle of this enhanced risk. But tornado threat, you're not too high, but 5% could definitely stands out across the other severe weather events. This one could definitely produce a tornado or two for areas like Casper, Wyoming, Gillette, Wyoming, Scottsbluff, Nebraska, Torrington, Wyoming, and Douglas, Wyoming. But there's a 2% risk that snakes down into the Panhandle of Oklahoma and northern Texas. So you guys obviously got to watch out for that, even if you're in the 2% risk. Wind threat, it's pretty high, 30%, and you've got a hatch risk, because I really do think that wind is going to be the main threat today across the north central, but you've got, south, a big area of South Dakota and Nebraska. So I think you guys a little bit farther east this time could definitely see that damaging wind threat, but that's just because that squall line that we saw is going to form a little bit later, and that's going to be when the storm is a little bit farther off to the east. So that's why you see the hatch risk kind of shifting over to the east. But, hail threat, it's kind of the same as the wind threat, except it's a little bit further west. You do have a 30% risk and a hatched risk, but mainly Wyoming. So I really do think if you're in eastern Wyoming, you're going to get hit by some pretty large hail tonight. I think 2 inches in diameter, maybe even more. But I mean, it's gonna be pretty bad out there, especially across Wyoming. So there also is another hatched area in this 15% risk a little bit farther south, so Panhandle of Oklahoma, a little bit of Kansas and Colorado mixed in there, and then northern Texas. You guys could definitely see the same amount of hail as you guys up here in the north central. But, we go to the day 2 threat, the day 2 outlook, I should say, and you do have a slight risk, but luckily you're not up to an enhanced risk yet. This definitely could get upgraded to an enhanced risk, but we still have to see how this plays out. Tornado threat, you're up to a 5% risk, so you could see a tornado or two out there. Wind, 15%, so not too bad. And then hail, you're up to a 15% risk, but you do have a hatched area. Okay? And we're going to move on to the Northeast. Just going to briefly talk about, the storminess that's happening right now. So we do have our stalled low pressure center right now that has been dumping a lot of rainfall. But as we continue throughout tonight and this evening, you could just see that you're going to have tons of scattered thunderstorms across the region tonight into tomorrow morning. But this is going to be the same story throughout the rest of this weekend. But it's going to be very, very wet, especially tonight. Some very intense thunderstorms are going to move through the Long Island and Connecticut, Rhode Island area, and those storms could definitely be severe. So, probably like just after 2 a.m. is when these storms could enter that area. They're going to be damaging wind producers, and maybe you could even hear or see some hail out there. But the storminess will eventually clear up tomorrow, but then you're going to get another surge in moisture that's going to create another low pressure center that's just going to bring more rain for your weekend. But it's also going to duel with this severe weather event off to the west that's going to be pushing eastward, that's going to eventually enter the Northeast and maybe give some more thunderstorms and storminess out there for your weekend. But we're going to briefly talk about the tropics right now. So you've got Bret right here just west of the Lesser Antilles, and it's getting torn apart by the wind shear. But you do have Bret losing strength over the eastern Caribbean Sea, rain and gusty winds still lingering in the Windward Islands. So you can definitely still see some of those gusty winds out there. And the newly formed Cindy right here, just where pretty much the same exact area where Bret formed. Cindy's actually not is a 50-mile-per-hour storm with a 1,003 millibar low pressure center, and is moving west northwest at 16 miles an hour. So pretty fast. 16 miles an hour is fast for a tropical system. But this is going to be moving northeastward and maybe take a jump at the Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina coastline, but we still have to figure that out later. And right now, the only description we have on Cindy is that Cindy is pausing its intensification. So we don't see much intensification right at this moment from Cindy. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. So take care tonight. Stay safe. I'll see you guys later.